While Lane is looking for questions, allow me to serenade you with wonderful narration. Lane looked down at his phone and thought to himself, why the hell did I have this guy on my podcast?
What's up, guys? My name is Lane, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a dual Q&A with Eric over at Gun Gamers. Eric, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, hello there. I am Eric, also known as eHouse. If you know what Gun Gamers is, I'm sorry. If you don't, then I'm a nerd, part of a group of nerds who like to drink whiskey and talk about BB wars. So that's what we're gonna do today.
All right. So Eric and I have done some videos before. However, we've never done a Q&A together. So we asked you guys on the new YouTube community tab on everyone's channel what questions you would like us to both answer, and that's what we're going to do today. So why don't we start off with the first question, which comes from the user I Like Korean Girls. That's quite the username. And he says, hey, BB Warrior and eHouse, I've been asking for you guys to do a collaboration together for a while, so thanks for doing that. My question for you today is, everyone knows that going to play is more fun with a group of friends. However, how do you make Airsoft more enjoyable when you're by yourself? Why don't you go ahead and answer that first?
Yeah, if you're gonna give me first rights to this one, then my best answer for that is to find a way in which you're not by yourself for long.
Yes.
If you're going to a field and maybe it's your first time at the field, or maybe you're a regular there. Let's assume this is your first time. Let's assume you've never been there before. You need to quickly, well, no, don't need to, but it's better if you quickly find people who you'll get along with and who you can have a good rapport with, and then you'll just have a better time on the field as you get to make new friends.
Exactly.
And that is what's going to, so you go to the field by yourself, but you don't leave without having made new friends. Just be social.
Exactly. That's what when I first read this question, my answer to it was make friends. If you're not going with friends, make some new friends, because one, you're going to have a way more enjoyable time actually working with people. You're going to be able to learn the secrets about the field and things like that. And overall, it's just going to lead to a better experience. So like this last weekend, I went to Hudson Valley Airsoft, and that isn't my first time there. However, it's 5 hours away from me, so I don't go there very often. And that's one of the things that I strive to do. I was with a group of 3 other people, but, we all communicated with other people. We started to get to know them because, one, you're going to make new friends, and that's one of the best parts about Airsoft is, the losers that you get to hang out with after. But besides that, it just helps you do better on the field, I think, because, you're communicating with your team, so you're more organized. If there's, a place that's definitely going to get you killed, you're going to talk about it, and you can ask, like, hey, what strategies do you like to do, or this or that. And I think that it just leads to, one, a better experience. As Airsoft, you're going to have a better time, but you're also going to be able to enjoy it more because you're going to be making new friends and doing something social besides just shooting at people.
And, half the point of Airsoft is to get out of your mother's basement and go make friends and be outside. Exactly. So that's what you got to do.
Yeah, God forbid Airsofters go outside, but when you do, you might as well.
It's really scary. Yeah, human interaction is terrifying, but you just got to get over your agoraphobia a little bit.
I actually lied. I've never played Airsoft before. I just stay in my mother's basement and make videos about it all day.
Same here. And I get drunk to cope with the crippling loneliness.
Okay, so why don't we move into the next question, which is going to be on my phone, and that is asking, what is your opinion on civilian factions and events? The person who asked this question, who I apologize, I can't pronounce your name, they have it a lot in their country, but they don't see it very often in videos from here in the US. So I think it can go one of 2 ways, depending on how you're talking about it. So there are really good and really well planned out civilian factions like the militia and milsim West. But I think at the same time, I think there's really good ones like that, but then there's just bad NPC factions at more LARP style events, which can cause a lot of issues, because something that I have found, and Eric, you can kind of talk about it in your own experiences, but I've noticed that a lot of these people that are civilians or NPCs, they're more in it for their personal fun than the general events fun. They want to have a good time, but that doesn't necessarily go along with everyone having a good time at the event.
I think it depends an incredible degree on the way the event is structured.
Yeah.
But before I continue with that, I want to take you to task for being too much of a coward to even attempt a hilarious pronunciation of that guy's name. Second of all, but if you look at something like the insurgency format from Milsim West, they actually make it fun to be a civilian because they have rules where civilians can't abuse their position.
Exactly.
And the way the event is structured makes it so crucial for you to fulfill your role in order to have an effect on how the event progresses. And it ultimately becomes more fun to try to play the game non-combatively. But a lot of, as you described them, LARP style events will try to do something like that, but it ends up falling flat because the event promoter or the event designer just doesn't quite know or have the confidence how to design an event that makes it fun to be non-combative and makes it fun to not just troll and ruin the event.
Exactly. I feel like a lot of events, and there's an event that Eric and I went to last year. As I explained, I'm sure you'll know which one I'm talking about, Eric.
I already know.
The NPCs didn't have any consequences for being awful people. It was like they're playing GTA where they could do whatever they want, and then they just respawn like nothing happened. So at an event like the Insurgency series from Milsim West, there are consequences if you decide to just go on a rampage. You know, with a lot of these events, I feel like, again, it really relies on the hoster, but as well the attitude of the people in the civilian faction. It all depends on how it's set up, because there could be a way that it could go really, really good and be fun, like Milsim West, or it could go horribly wrong, like a lot of them end up doing.
Yeah, it just depends incredibly. I mean, with all Airsoft, the quality of Airsoft depends a lot on the quality of player, which then can even change for the better or worse, depending on the quality of event design. So if you were, what I would say is, I'm going to get nerdy about game design shit here.
Right.
If you are designing an event, you need to make it where your civilian faction is fun to play non-combatively, which is very difficult.
Exactly.
You need to know how to market that civilian faction, and you need to know what to give the civilian faction to do that works well within that. And once you can figure that out, you're golden.
So this next question is actually going to tie into what we're just talking about. And this one comes from Dingo in Argentina. And he asks, I'm starting to run games in my city, and I was looking at some tips about how to run games and being a ref. What are the best ways of enforcing rules while still keeping people happy? So I'm going to let Eric take the reins on this one, because I haven't hosted or refed at a game in a couple of years now. However, Eric's been doing it for a while here. So why don't you talk about the experiences that you found with that, Eric?
Okay, well, first of all, Lane's not giving himself enough credit. He's helped me out at a couple of games, which is, very much appreciated, of course. But second of all, so you're trying to enforce the rules without making enemies, so to speak. I hate to say it, but to a certain extent, you need to not be afraid to make enemies.
Exactly.
That kind of sounds like a dickish attitude, but it can be done in a way that's not. You need to be harsh but fair. The one major thing I would say that will help keep people feeling like the rules are fair is enforce the rules evenly with everybody.
Yeah.
Favoritism with rule enforcement is one of the quickest ways you can make no one respect the rules. So just because it's your buddy who say there's no full auto at your field, just because it's your buddy going full auto doesn't mean you don't yell at him to turn it on to semi. Just as an example.
Yeah, there's a field that's local to Eric and I that I have this same experience at. I'm not going to say the name because I'm not here to talk down about people, but something that I have found and something that turns me off from field instantly is favoritism. So if there is a referee who, their teammates are playing that day, more than 9 times out of 10, they're going to be unfair in treating one team versus the other. So I think that's one of the things that a good ref has to do, is not show favoritism towards any players, whether it's your friends, your teammates, your whoever it is. Favoritism is one of those things that, when I notice that you're not being, proactive and calling hits or semi, like Eric mentioned, to one team, I'm not going to be very happy with you. And I'm sure a lot of my teammates aren't going to be very happy with you. And then they're going to think, well, if they can break the rules, if they don't have to call their hits, then I don't have to call my hits. So I think that that's one of the biggest ways to make a day go downhill, is if you're enforcing it on one side all the time versus not the other, I think that that can make the whole day just go sour. Now, another recommendation that I would give from my time as a referee is don't just sit in a tower and watch from afar, because in my personal opinion, you're not being very proactive to stop it, and you really can't enforce anything because someone could be shooting full auto and they could be out of your sight if you're in your tower. So I personally like to recommend, it's something that I personally like to do when I'm in a referee or admin state, is I like to walk around, check people on both sides, because if I'm just watching one side for the entire day, then I won't be catching half of the issues that are happening. So that's just one of my personal recommendations.
Another thing that I think can help when you're trying to enforce rules is there are ways to correct people for certain things that is kind of in good humor and in good fun. And believe it or not, most airsofters, are not just out there to be a dick or to hurt people.
Yeah.
So if you are kind of humorous and kind of fun in the way you present yourself, then a lot of times they'll respond well to that. But then, like I said, you can't be afraid to be harsh if you need to.
I think
you don't always need to.
Yeah,
you don't need to go 0 to 100, but
I think there are some people out there who, when they're a referee, they are just that they're aggressive about talking about the rules. And I think that you have to find that fine line where there's some things that you absolutely have to be serious about, but at the same time, you don't have to scream at someone because, they accidentally threw their gun into full auto on mistake because, their trigger locked up or something. So I feel like, again, don't be hard on absolutely everything, but know when there is a time for that. Like things that are an immediate safety hazard to people, or things that are absolutely not allowed. Like if you're throwing pyro at an indoor field that doesn't allow pyro, that's a big issue.
Yeah, that's a zero tolerance. That's where you go 0 to 100.
Exactly. Or someone, hits someone in the chest with a tag round. That would be pretty unfortunate.
Yeah.
Creepy Airsoft, which is not a creepy name, by the way, ask if you could play Airsoft anywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be a licensed field. It could be anywhere in the world. Where would you want to play?
I have a fantasy of where I would want to play Airsoft that is simultaneously the most stupid idea, but also the best idea. And once I say it, everyone will realize and admit that they've had the same fantasy.
What's that?
Fucking Chernobyl.
I was, earlier tonight when I was looking through all these questions, that was my first response. That would be really cool besides radiation poisoning.
Yes. Besides the radiation poisoning, that would be amazing.
So I think for mine, the first thing I thought of, and this is going way back. Do you remember the first short film that Airsoft GI did?
Man, I don't know if I do.
They did a short film of Tim from Crytek and Bob. I don't know if he still works
at the time. Tim from GI.
Yeah, I was about to say Tim from GI and Bob from GI. They had a short film where they were fighting each other in the Airsoft GI store.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, it was the Tim vs. Bob series promo.
I thought that was so cool at first. So I always wanted to play, in like a department store or something like that. And then I thought about how awfully balanced that would be.
Well, I mean, we're talking fantasy. I mean, let's assume that someone could put it together so that it would make sense.
Other than that, I hear a lot of them. Because I've heard this question asked around before. I've heard a lot of people say like I'd love to play in a school, which is kind of concerning. But there's a lot of other ones that I think would be kind of cool. Like a lot of people want to play in these big facilities that are made up of smaller and smaller rooms. And I always think that's cool till I realize all that's going to be is guys standing on each end of the hallway trying to outrange each other. But if I had to pick a place for airsofters to play, truthfully, I'd probably want to play in the Amazon warehouse because it's probably a maze, and that would be really, really cool. That would be amazing. I'd also want to play in Plains Airsoft Arena because that was my favorite field and it closed, and I'm very
all nostalgic.
I'm very upset. That was my favorite field.
I have an answer that's slightly more realistic than Chernobyl, but still presents its own problems. Actually, I have two answers.
What's that?
The one that's definitely not more realistic than Chernobyl, but would probably make a great game, mostly because I played way too much Rainbow Six Vegas back in the day, is like the Las Vegas Convention Center.
SHOT Show Airsoft.
Well, I mean, that's the Sands Expo and Convention Center technically, but they're all the
I wouldn't know. I'm a pleb who hasn't been to SHOT Show yet.
I missed this year. I'm sad.
sad.
But the other place that's kind of in the same vein as Chernobyl, but a little more attainable, is actually right in our neck of the woods, Love Canal.
I'm unfamiliar.
Okay, so Love Canal was basically a neighborhood or a small like town. I don't know if it was technically a town or just a neighborhood, but it was built on the site where they used to dump chemicals.
Woo!
And they built a residential neighborhood over all these chemicals that they didn't tell anyone were there. So all of a sudden, the cancer rate in this area spikes through the roof, and there's birth defects, and there's chemicals and waste seeping into people's basements.
Well,
and now it's a whole abandoned town.
No one up you on that one. We got to play in Centralia.
Oh, Silent Hill, man.
Where Silent Hill is based off of. That would be horrifying.
If I was playing BB Wars and I saw Pyramid Head coming after me, I'm tripping you, man.
Oh yeah, I'm pushing some short little kid airsoft over, and I'm running. Oh, that's horrible. All right, so we're going to do our last question for today's Q&A, and I just want to say thank you guys to everyone who submitted questions for this Q&A. So the last question is going to be, which gun do you think is better for long range, a semi-automatic DMR or a bolt-action sniper rifle?
That depends on the event.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say the DMR for a few reasons. Let's say, in a perfect world, let's say the DMR and the sniper rifle shoot the exact same. Or let's even give the sniper rifle a 30-foot advantage. The sniper rifle will hit someone 30 feet farther away. I just think, in my personal opinion, and from someone who's tried sniping, and from someone who constantly plays with a semi-auto gun, I like the versatility of being semi-automatic more than I would like that little bit extra range from a bolt-action system.
And you see, but this is where we run into the interesting part, because it depends on if the event will allow the bolt-action rifle to go like an extra 100 feet per second over the limit of the semi-automatic limit. So let's say the limit is like 450 for a DMR and then 550 for a sniper rifle. If that's the case, then you can push that much of a heavier BB at that much extra velocity, which is going to increase your first shot accuracy. And if you're playing a marksman role, that is your most important thing, really. But at the same time, a lot of events allow those things to be kind of the same. And the skill set of most players, I do think I would agree with you. I think a semi-auto DMR is more flexible, and the ability to take follow-up shots means that if needed, you can kind of walk your BBs onto target.
Yeah.
But if you're dead set on a marksman role and there's a big advantage in velocity limit for sniper rifles, and assuming both guns shoot like with the same hop-up setup and everything otherwise, I would throw that much of an extra heavier BB into the sniper rifle and have better first shot accuracy.
I'm going to throw another one into the mix. I think that if you're building a DMR, because there was no stipulation on FPS for this question, if you can build a gun that shoots like a DMR, so let's say you go out and buy an SR-25, so it is a DMR because it shoots 308. If you can tune that gun to where it's shooting really, really good and accurate with a nice hop up, and you're using, nice heavyweight BBs, but let's say you're able to keep that at 390 and you're able to keep some sort of, manageable minimum engagement distance. I personally think even if I lose a little bit of range, even on the DMR in this situation, I think that would just be better overall, because if you are now limited to like a 10-foot minimum, that just makes you more versatile.
Or a no-foot minimum at most milsim games.
Exactly. So if you can build a rifle, because, FPS isn't everything about range. For consistency and accuracy, it's going to matter more on your barrel, hop up, and your BBs and BB weight, I should say.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you can, make that really good gun that is able to, reach out and touch people, but you're also allowed to get up close and personal with them, I think that's the best option no matter what. Because then, if you're in a building, you're not switching over to your handgun. You're not at a disadvantage versus if someone's even 40 feet away from you, you're not at a massive disadvantage besides the fact that you have more than likely a magnified optic. So I think that would be the best range. I'm more in the way of versatility. I try to make sure that everything that I have can serve a second purpose if that's applicable. But if you are, really confident in yourself, if the field allows it with its play style, because I mean, there's no sense in using a sniper in a indoor environment. So
No.
as long as your environment and the place that you're playing allows that type of play style, that's going to determine it. But if you're in a field that allows for all of them, let's say it's a really greatly built field that allows for just about any style of play. And actually, why don't we use River City as an example? Because Eric and I both play there fairly regularly.
I mean, yeah.
I feel like that field design, and this is kind of going to bounce off that question earlier about how to make a field better and reffing. If you can design your field, if that's part of your job there, try to design the field in such a way that you can have multiple play styles, because it sucks going to a field where it's only good for speed soldiers or it's only good for snipers or like a niche. So try to design your field, and this takes a lot of creativity and time and play testing. Try to make a field that works for everything across the board, because that's
going to make sure you have the best market appeal.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I have a dumb answer to this question, but a great dumb answer.
What's that?
So a lot of events will allow LMGs to have a nearly DMR FPS boost.
I know where you're going with this.
And I have personally built LMGs that are as accurate as many people's DMRs. And then it's costly, but if you feed like 3 2s through a well-tuned LMG, you basically have a full auto DMR.
Because, plus they have a good barrel length on them.
Yeah.
So if you can go out and build, and this is going to be cheap, but at some milsim events, the M27 IAR, which is essentially just a longer 416 in the way of airsoft, those are considered DMRs, or LMGs in a lot of events, like milsim West. So, let's say you're doing an M27 IAR kit, they use the 4-time Trijicon ACOG on there. So essentially you do have a fully automatic LMG, or a fully automatic DMR LMG at a lot of events. If you can get a really good barrel set up, it's going to be costly to throw 3 2s through your barrel at full auto, but that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, or there was like, we couldn't put 3 2s through it because milsim West, they would give us 2 5s or 3 6s. Yeah. But I had my PKM, and my PKM has a 509 millimeter Prometheus barrel and a super good Crytac hop-up bucking that I threw in there. And then I stabilized the barrel and the velocity is consistent. That thing, even with 2.8 or 2 5s, is able to suppress past 200 feet. I mean, you're losing accuracy at that range with 2 5s. You're not going to be hitting a human target with any real sense of reliability. But those BBs are going to be in a cloud, and there's so many of them, it is literally accuracy by volume and suppression. So then you get the best of everything.
Exactly. So to answer your question, neither of those answers. Buy an LMG and upgrade it. But that is going to do it for today's video, guys. I want to thank you so much for staying here until the end. I know this was a little bit longer and a little bit different of a video. Big thanks to Eric over at Gun Gamers for joining me today. You're definitely going to be seeing both of us working together a whole lot more this year. I will leave it at that. Yeah. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed the video and this was your first time here, I'd love it if you joined our community by hitting that subscribe button down below. And while you're at it, hit the bell icon next to it to stay updated when we post new videos every Tuesday and Friday. Make sure to check both of us out on social media. I'll have links to myself as well as Gun Gamers down in the description below, as well as on the end card where you can check out Eric's channel, Gun Gamers. It's really entertaining, and if you like the more educational videos that we do here in the reviews, you're really going to like Eric's channel. But do you have anything to say for the end of the video, Eric?
I guess the last order of business is to praise Judy.
Praise Judy. Have a nice night, guys.
Good night.